You're ticking off in next 1 minute. So good afternoon, beautiful people. This is Dr. Anumeta back here again with Dr. Archana. We're still talking about Bhagavad Gita. Somewhere in between, we were not there. A lot of things happening in Archana's life, and I don't know much about Gita, so I could not have done this all by myself. It's a joint effort. We are going to be today talking about existence of the material body, and not Vishnu, but Vishnu. Vish is not there, N-U. And that's how it's spelled in Bhagavad Gita. So over to Dr. Archana. Over to what you do the best, ma'am. Thank you. Really acknowledge
Namaskar.
it.
Hello, everyone. It is the same time where we are trying and telling you the existence of us, the reason why we are here. Last week, I happened to have a discussion with somebody, a verbal conversation though, and it was a beautiful conversation where the person actually came up with this question: Gita is a religious book. I mean, it was so nice of that person to come up with this, because that gave me so many, levels and grounds and reasons to tell the person that Gita is not a religious book. And he mentioned that no, Gita is a Hindu religious book. And it was a beautiful insight that I could have a conversation face to face with the person, telling him, trying and convincing him that it has really nothing to do with the religion. Standing on the grounds of Kurukshetra, it is the companionship of Arjun and Krishna, who is the charioteer of Arjun at that particular moment. Just imagine you sitting and talking to your driver about the beautiful philosophies of life. Not everybody would do that, but that's exactly what happened on the grounds of Kurukshetra. Now, today, when we are talking about the existence of different levels, I remember speaking with all of you about Krishna consciousness, clarifying the point that Krishna is energy. All right. Now, in this chapter, this is chapter 7, here Sri Krishna is himself telling us exactly those words, those things, that energy, the concept that please understand, I am the superior energy. It is that energy which exists everywhere, in everything. Here, there are particular, I remember talking to you all about people not able to understand what is Krishna, what is Krishna consciousness through the blunt material senses. We described the five senses, I remember. They are the eyes, the ears, the touch, the taste, the smell, and the feel. All of them, right? Now, these senses, they are perceiving the environment and guiding the body or the person to behave in a particular way. We all react to the environment through our perception, feeling, thought process, and perceiving it and then taking the course of action, whatever we have to. If, for example, there's a hot iron right next to you, and you just happen to touch the iron, you instantly, nobody comes and tells you, hey, the iron is hot, remove your hand. It does not happen that way. The minute you touch, you just pull your hand back. So you perceived and you reacted immediately. Now, that is what we are saying, that you can understand and perceive the environment. Yes, because that is what the senses are supposed to do. Feel the environment and tell you about them. Now, when we are talking about Krishna consciousness, now in this chapter, Krishna in another way, because see, like the way we are having difficulty understanding Krishna, his energy, his consciousness, his presence in everything, similarly, in every chapter, Arjun is coming up with different level of queries. Because Bhagavad Gita is not just Sri Krishna standing there and just continuing talking, talking, talking. No, because Arjun had the Sakha Bhav, that is the bhav of friendship, which is called the highest level of devotion. In devotion, there is always, like, I'll just give a small example. Whenever we are devoted to somebody, it is an idol or a book or a knowledge or something is there and you are there. They're two different things and you are devoted to that. You are surrendering to that. All right. Now, what Sri Krishna is saying, that a person who is understanding me in everything, I have spoken this, material, immaterial. Krishna energy, Krishna consciousness is prevailing and existing in everything. A person who understands this, believes this, and lives his life with this kind of consciousness is automatically surrendering to Krishna consciousness because it is that energy. Now, here in this particular shlok and this chapter, Sri Krishna is very clearly telling us it is the fourth, fifth, sixth shloka of chapter 7. Okay. Now, here Sri Krishna mentions before this particular shlok that earth is there, water is there, fire, air, and ether, which is the sky. Besides this, there is mind, intellect, and false ego. I remember we all discussed and talked about it. Now, these all together, there are 8 of them, they all together constitute the part of Sri Krishna's material energies. Okay. Now, they are a part of the material energies. They perceive, we act. It is all existing in our Panch Bhoot body. Okay.
Wanted to, Archana, bring people to a very interesting aspect which you're talking about.
Okay.
You spoke about the senses.
Yeah.
Ever anybody questioned why these senses were not turned inwards? Why was the eyes opening outwards? Why is the skin out, not inside only? Why is it that your ears, which are taking this noise, are not having even a lid on it? Why is
Hmm.
everything outward, not inward? Everything is outward because it was supposed to take the potential or take the inputs from outside and carry it
Yes,
inwards.
exactly. From the universe to inside.
Absolutely. Now, the
Yes.
network or the nerves which are there are going right to the brain and then internally. But
Yeah.
because these are the antennas to pick up stuff from outside
Yeah.
and to understand our environment, these
Hmm.
are the second
Hmm.
concept. A lot of us, including me, when I first started with Bhagavad Gita, because I like to take pride in saying I don't belong to any religion.
Yeah.
And the minute we say they use the word Krishna, we forget everything else because the association is Hindu.
Yeah.
So, beautiful people, what Archana is talking about is not Krishna or Allah, or she's not talking about Christ or anybody. She's talking here about, and we've just given that energy a name. Maybe it sounds like a Hindu name and it sounds like, oh, Krishna. And when we say Krishna, there is a picture that comes in our brain of a deity who's got the basuri in the hand. Brilliant. Yet, for a minute, if we can unassociate ourselves and understand this, what she's really talking about is that you, me, and everything in this world is energy. And there is something holding this energy. You call it the universe, you call it Allah, you call it Krishna, you call it Ram, you call it Vishnu, you call it whatever. The idea is not the name, the idea is to understand what is the association behind that name. And here she's talking about energy, 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 and energy which is constituting or something that is giving us vitality in our entire life. So I just wanted to clarify that because her dear friend also asked her this. Hey, this is Hindu. And if somebody was trying to explain to me about uh, the Muslim Grantha or about the Christian Grantha, and have the name like Christ over there, my association will straight go and say this is belong to this cult, and I might shut myself off. So I just want you guys to reassociate and just understand what you're talking about is energy. What we both are trying to get to you is that there is energy beyond our understanding, the invisible, yet which gives you the visibility. Thank you.
Anu here very beautifully. I'll be reading it from the book itself so that it clarifies it's exactly what you're saying. For the material creation, I, the Lord, I created the plenary expansion of the universe. See, we say it's the Big Bang Theory or anything, all right? Adam or Eve, we say anything, anything. It is some kind of energy which created. Here, the first one of these energies, we are calling it the Mahavishnu. Now, Mahavishnu is just the energy, the total material energy that is also known as the Tattva, the basic, the essence of creation of the whole world. Once I finish with this dilemma of religion, non religion will be very clear because here he himself is saying, and he said it before, that I existed before, I am there today, and I shall be there tomorrow again.
So I'm just
That
going to
means the energy is neither created nor destroyed.
yeah,
Every, yeah.
I'm just going to
So,
say the
yeah.
man's words. Life existed even before. Life is existing even now, and life will exist even tomorrow. And what gives that life is the big I.
Exactly. That we are calling as the Mahatattva or the Mahavishnu. The second part is when this creation it enters into all of the universe. See, the energy came, it entered into the universe.
Which means,
And what it is
guys,
doing once it's entering the universe, it is creating so much of diversities. I mean, just imagine. I remember watching this particular video a little while ago. It was taken from the space and pinpointed to one person in one particular city, in one particular village or somewhere. And it showed that from that iota, that dot, it's expanded, expanded, and then it was the universe. And then again, the universe shrunk, 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 and that person came down on the camera. I was feeling that if I were that person, Anu, I mean, just imagine in this expansive diversities of the universe, I am like a nukta. Nukta is that particular dot when you put under an alphabet to create a particular kind of vowel sound. All right. I am like that dot actually in the diversities. So what are we talking about here? That energy, it expanded in the universe, it created so many diversities, and each of them are their own different identities that we call as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. They're just names given to this expansive energy. It is like Anu Mehta and Archana. They're just energies. They are created. And we are creating this universe every day. Okay. The next one is that once if something has been created, once something has so much of diversity, some kind of energy has to prevail, has to exist to look after it.
To preserve
Even
it.
a, even a plant needs to be taken care of to grow, right? Now we come down to the third part, which is known as Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. This particular energy is called the diffused form of energy, which is all pervading in all the diversities of the universe. Mind you, I am not saying the Hindu universe, the Christian, or the Muslim. I am saying it is that all pervading energy, the super soul, which actually diffuses to maintain, preserve, and let it exist the way it is. Here, very beautifully, they are saying we also call it as the Paramatma, which is the energy existing in everything. He also is present in the form of energies within the atoms also. It is not just the living entities. Here, it is the beauty of this book teaching us that energy, the concept of non destruction of energy is so clear here. The way Krishna ji is telling us, or Krishna is teaching us, that I have been existing since God knows long time ago. I am there. I remember talking to little senior citizens a few while ago and talking to them about the mobile phone, you know, and I remember this particular lady telling me, I have seen amazing amount of changes in my life from the time when we had that kind of phone which we would hold like this and dial the phone to this time where I can just take my phone and walk all over the universe and speak with anybody. Now, that lady, she reminded me of that kind of Christian existence or Krishna energy or Christian consciousness that she saw that time. She saw the, partition of India. She saw the time when Britishers ruled us. She saw all that. And I think she belonged to one of the royal families in Rajasthan. I don't know the exact gharana that she belonged to. And she said, I remember being carried in palkis. Palkis were those sitting arrangements made for children and ladies to sit, and they were carried on the shoulders by four helpers. So she said, I have seen that. And I remember because very clearly she told me that the phone in our house used to be like this. It used to be like a pipe horn thing, and there used to be something, and then we used to dial, and we used to book a trunk call to somebody, whoever we had to talk to. And she says, today I just pick up my phone and I go ting ding ding and I talk. So that kind of existence, that is what Krishna is talking about here. I'm just talking about a person who is there in the realm of earth, and she has seen so much of change. So just imagine the existence of one energy which is all pervasive, who is capable of being in all the realms, who is not bound by the restriction of timings and space. That energy is Krishna, and he is telling us that I exist even in the atoms. That nuclear bomb, that, I remember in science we used to learn about fission and fusion reactions for making of bombs. So that energy in those atoms, in those nucleus to combine and go boom, that
Abs-
energy is Krishna. That
Just
energy is Krishna consciousness.
absolutely.
Okay.
And what Archana is talking is so beautiful, actually. She's talking about that if you ever existed on this planet Earth, then you existed in form of a stone, plant, you've lived all that. You've lived the evolution. You may have been a dinosaur at one point.
You
Today you
never
are
know.
being sitting down and watching the show. Now,
Yes.
we don't know. We don't know how and where we existed. But the memory may not be existing with you right now. But you carry the footprints, like whether you are there in this world or not. This video stays on the digital and leaves a digital footmark. Like this, every bit of what you do leaves a digital, not a digital, but a footmark in the scheme of the matrix. Now, even something more interesting, she says, and I will put it in meta words. Your eyes, your eyes make the invisible visible. Your eyes trap the light, and something that you had not seen, you didn't think existed. Just by bending the light, it creates vision. Bending down to just understanding that this is not religion creates another vision. Similarly, a baby inside the mother's womb is an invisible sperm and ova, which then takes life. Everything that you think existed or didn't exist, you're asking yourself, is everything visible? If you can connect with your dead father and you understand that, oh, he was visible and now he's invisible, and there are people who can connect with the invisible. So, what she's talking about, when you were invisible, you still existed. When there was that plant which was sowed inside the seed, and that seed had the invisible you have always existed in some form or the other.
Always.
Can be seen and a form that cannot be seen. Your body constantly is creating. You didn't know when you were born that you were going to look like this. You
Exactly.
don't know today how you're going to look like it at 80 years of age. You don't know. Yet you will exist even then, even if your form looks different, even if you cannot be recognized by other people. That's what she's talking about. And everything gets created, everything gets preserved, and everything has to be allowed a shelf life. That's the three things that she spoke about. So from the invisible creates something that is visible, and then you say it's created. Till it was invisible, you didn't think it was created. Once it's created, you got to preserve it, like love. Then you created a marriage, it got visibility. Then you created children, more visibility for your love. And then
Exactly.
you had to preserve it. And then you had to give it a shelf life for it to form its own cycle. Have I understood it correctly, Archana?
Very much. There's a very beautiful sentence which comes that the material world, the way you mentioned shelf life. So there is this sentence, it says that the material world is a temporary manifestation of one of my energies as Lord. Just imagine that the whole material world is just one of the manifestations that he has achieved. And material world means it can be anything. Very beautifully, when you are mentioning about a baby, I remember this, that when I was reading it, it says that everything is existing in the form of matter or spirit. Either it is matter or it is spirit. And the best part is that matter cannot exist without the spirit. A seed, the way you mentioned, जिसे हम हिंदी में कहते हैं कि एक बीज में संभावना है बढ़ने की. That means that a seed has multiple possibilities of growing. But if the seed thinks that he can exist and see the result, the possibilities of his growth, it is not possible. The seed has to sow itself in the earth. It has to dissolve its existence. It has to become one with the land, the mud, the earth, and only then it creates. Only then the outcome comes and a beautiful gigantic tree appears which is giving fruit, shelter, and everything. All right. Now, similar way, no matter can exist, no material body can develop without the spirit, because it is only that this spirit form of energy in that matter is capable of growth or living or existence, whatever you want to call it.
So
It is only.
let me translate what Archana is saying in very simple language. There is one part of you which is visible, that's the matter, and one part of you which is the spirit, that's invisible. How many of you can actually see the oxygen going out and carbon dioxide coming in? None of us. And yet, none of us can live without this invisible spirit, the air which is moving in our lungs, moving in our body. And so many people have died of COVID because they could not breathe. Did anybody was they able to see? They were able to see the discomfort that person went through, but they still were not able to see the oxygen that was going in and oxygen that was coming out. The second potential of spirit is love. How many of you can see love? You can see love in someone's eyes, but how many of you can capture love and hold it in, and like hold it, the trust, you can hold it. You can't. All this is invisible. Understanding, I want understanding, I want love, I want peace. दिखता है क्या तुमको? Do you see it
You can't
anywhere?
see. You can
And
just perceive and feel it. You can't see it.
the experiences that you have, which cannot be put anywhere, are also created out of the spirit. And then you are existing in this material body, wouldn't exist without this oxygen, wouldn't exist without the love,
I think
affection.
something just went
Wouldn't-
wrong with
Yes,
Anu's net. I'll continue with this and then I'll join back.
yes.
Okay, you're back. Fine. Yeah, carry on.
So the thing is that the invisible part or the component, whether it is love, understanding, trust, whether it is the oxygen that's going on, the invisible functioning of the hormones inside your body, the invisible functioning of how fast the messages are being carried, is all part of that spirit energy that we are talking about. Something else that struck me when Archana was talking is she was talking about living, and then it again becoming a dot back again, something that expanded, becoming a dot back again, and then merging back again. Now I'm sitting here on a chair which is made up of wood, on a table which is made up of wood. Even though it's dead, it's still useful. And this is one thing I want to tell you guys: no matter whether you're dead or alive, you're still useful. Whether you have the spirit or not, you still are serving someone or the other. And that is so important for you to understand, because I hear so many people say, oh, now I've become useless because I'm not working. Abe, you can never be useless, and you can never be without the spirit. Thank you.
Beautiful thing that you're just mentioning. I remember that people, when especially elders, they say this once they retire or they give up whatever work. We uh, just say that that part where we are creating money or resources, that work that we were doing, only that is what was life. No, I personally feel that even if a person who is very elder, not capable of really physically doing much in the house, not even doing his basic chores, but he's existing, his presence, his energy, his aura, his experience of life is enough of an energy to sustain us. I personally feel that, like, for example, a mother, an elderly mother, who might not now be doing anything for her son, but once in the morning when the son gets ready and just goes, loves his mom, gives a kiss on the forehead, and says, Mom, I'm leaving for work. And all that mom says, God bless you, son. Have a great day. That one sentence, Anu, it does miracles for that child.
Abs-
Similarly,
abs-
you don't have to be physically working or earning money or doing something, but you don't know. I remember talking initially about something called Hasti, Bhati, and Priya. Initially, we had spoken about it. Hasti is something that exists, that breathes, that is there. Bhati is something that you feel, and it's your feeling. And Priya is something that you love. Alright. Now, anything that you are feeling or that you are fond of, that much is enough for the value and existence of that person or thing. We are not talking about immaterial things, we are talking about living human beings or even pets, as a matter of fact. Even that they are there in the house, that is enough. Please do not feel that you are of no value. You do not know the value. I remember, I'm sharing this. There's a film actor called Akshay Kumar. You know about him. A lot of people might know. There was this particular interview of his, and this is like the time when he was a bartender. He came from that kind of background. And he mentions in that interview, Anu, that every time when I would go for a modeling assignment, I won't be selected or I was rejected. And it was his struggle period. He said, I would come back home, put my head in my mom's lap, and, he's telling this in that interview that mom would, just pat me like this and just tell me, you, kinna biba putter hai, you are the most successful, you're the most loved child, and you're the most successful. And he's saying, Mom, you say all this, but I'm not getting success. And his mother would say, never mind. You got your mom's lap today. You'll get success tomorrow. Don't worry about it. And when he shared this, he is one of the richest actors in Indian Bollywood cinema. That mother, just that small thing. And he said, it was my ritual after eating, or if I was very disappointed, immediately after coming from work, I would just sit down, put my head in my mom's lap, and that was a routine for him. So
Absolutely.
you really don't know what value those people have in your family.
Absolutely. You're taking me back to the time when my dad was alive. And every time I achieved something, I mean, I would definitely go and meet him and give him a hug. He was not well for almost 12 years of his last leg of his life. And he
Okay.
was a workaholic. For him, work was everything. And I heard him saying so many times that he's become useless. For
Hmm.
me, he was the most, I mean, he was there, and I would go and give him a hug. And
Everything. I'm sure.
so complete every day.
Yes.
For him, he wasn't earning, but I was earning love every day because I had a body to go and hug, a body to go and hold. Somebody, his eyes would see the awards that I was winning.
And
Those
that
awards,
that
those,
pride in his eyes. Oh
yes,
yes. Oh
the,
yes.
the specialness in his eyes, the spirit with which he would look would transform that material trophy into something very different, and
Hmm.
it had a meaning. क्या फायदा उस मेहनत का कि कोई देखने वाला ही ना हो.
Nobody to love and appreciate that.
Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
that is
And
almost like, you
it is
have
a
that
thought,
uh, that story of the Midas touch, where the king was given the boon of whatever he will touch will turn gold. And he did not stop so much. He gave importance to gold, to the material, and forgot to give importance to the spirit, to the people in his life. That even when he touched his wife, she turned into gold. What was he going to do? For whom did he need all that gold? The material has its own value, but that material And the what we don't give, the money is material. What we don't give value to is the spirit and the fun with it. If that fun is not there, you are earning, and just putting it inside your locker and saying, "Hey, I'm successful. I'm
That
successful. I won't enjoy this." What's the point?
is
What's the point? You may be the richest man on this planet Earth, but you are poor from every corner. And yes, Akshay Kumar, the actor, Bollywood actor, knew this so well. And they say after every 100 no's, there is a yes.
yes.
And if you have that spirit to continue for that 100 times, and that spirit to continue for 100 times does not come from you, it generally comes from someone standing behind you, believing in you, and
It is
saying,
all the blessings. Absolutely. And Anu, it is like the those things, that love, that affection. In today's world, I feel that we need to create that for everyone. And that is what Gita comes down
don't
to.
you think,
Gita is
instead of,
saying,
don't you think, Archana, they need to be responsible to create it for themselves? We all
Anu,
have
we
taken.
all are responsible in our own places. If we can do our bit, we might teach somebody, we might not influence anybody. But if I have done my bit, probably if I close my eyes today and go for my heavenly board, I think I am a blessed soul. That's the beauty of Gita, that everything, like this particular place where I was reading this, spirit is the basic field of creation. The way no embryo would grow into a child, or a boy or a girl, a man or a woman later, and then merge into the Mahatma or Paramatma. That is, that energy, that travel, that capability of those seeds to merge together, to create, to grow. That spirit is required. That spirit is the base of it. That is why we see in so many cases, people, sometimes couples, they do not have babies. Everything is medically normal with them, and still they do not conceive. And here, I'm talking about the spiritual outlook of it, or the religious, not religious exactly, the outlook where it is said that children, जिसे हम हिंदी में कहते हैं बच्चे, बच्चे हमारे बचे हुए कर्म होते हैं. That means they are the souls or the energies or super souls that have already existed with us before, and they have come back together in this particular earthly realm to finish out the give take of love, affection, money. There are times when we see that a particular XYZ child has born to a particular family, and the family is very good monetarily, socially, and everything. But after the birth of that child, they just come down. The child is unwell, they spend all the money in the treatment. We see and hear so many things like this. What is that? That is the lena dena, the give and take of these soul energies. The child gave something to the parents in particular birth, came back here, took his things, and then he left back for his death. We see all this, a lot of it. All right. Now, that is what I am talking about. That is what Sri Krishna is talking about. That we create so much of us on I, me, mine, main, I. When are we going to learn that this body existing here in this realm is just to complete the circle of give take, whatever it is? And the day you realize, because there's this very beautiful example of learning which I would share. A particular lady married to a very successful doctor, a surgeon. She was suffering from some kind of disease which was not diagnosed. The doctor himself was a very learned person. They tried everything from India and abroad, couldn't do anything. And she, ardent follower of Gita. Once the husband, this conversation the husband has mentioned, 3 months before the lady passed, he shared this. He said, one day I was just sitting with her and I said, sweetheart, I have so much of money. I am myself a successful doctor and I am feeling so helpless that my own beloved wife, I am not able to, forget treatment. Diagnosis is also not possible. Treatment will happen only if I know exactly what is going wrong. He says all that money, all that knowledge, everything I feel is a waste here because I am not able to do anything. And she came up with a very beautiful sentence. She said, honey, I have learned to separate myself from the material existence and the spirit. He said, what are you talking about? She said that whatever pain, suffering, problems, they are all endured by the material body. I am established and firm in my spiritual knowledge. I am the spirit ruling the body. I am very happy, contented. The body feels the pain, and I am above it. I am just the energy seeing the body feeling the pain. It was a very beautiful answer, and I think it takes a lot of effort, energy, learning, understanding of Gita to reach that level where you can separate yourself. Because Anu, I feel that your own physical pain is the worst thing. You might have people garlanding you with gifts and everything, and if you have a headache also, you're going to shun off everybody that go, I have a headache, just get lost. It might be your favorite gift coming to you and you say go. That level where a person can have the understanding of separation of the material body and the spirit is what Gita wants us to reach at. The day you can separate and demarcate yourself that bhogega to sharir, that means the suffering has to be endured in the material body. I am the spirit existing in the body which has come here to learn and see and ultimately leave the body and go back to the other realm. That is the beauty of Bhagavad.
There is a modality called matrix reimprinting.
Yes, I
It's
know.
created by Carl
Yes,
Dawson.
yes. Absolutely, I know about it.
Talks about dissociation.
Yes,
You also know that when the soldiers go through a lot of pain, physical body goes through a lot of pain, how we endure it is by splitting off our psychic body. And it is that just that part of our existence feels that pain, and the rest of us don't. We also have something called the flying constellation, in which literally your spirit walks out of the body, what people call astral travel,
yes.
because they, in that way, they are leaving behind their subtle body, they're leaving behind their body, the dense body,
Material body, yes.
actually leaving it because it can't take that pain anymore. When you say to yourself, and that, oh, I can't endure this pain anymore, is when you decide that you're not going to be in this physical body anymore, and you actually leave your body, and your body bears the brunt of it, but your spirit is actually split out of it. This
Ex-
we do uh, in our everyday life without understanding that we are doing it. So it's not something that Archana is saying is out of the blue. It's something
No,
that
it's not.
to
It's
deal,
been there.
it's a mechanism to to kind of separate yourself out, to dissociate. And when you associate back means when you think back of the trauma, even think back of the trauma, all those feelings that you had felt. Maybe back in time when you were 2, 3, 4, or even a fetus, you
Mm.
can actually reassess, you can reconnect back to those
All
feelings
of it. Exactly.
because they never really left you, even, and you don't feel it otherwise in your every, you don't carry all the traumas and feel them all the time. It's because a part of you, that psyche at that time and that physiology at that time felt it, you got dissociated, and that's how you coped up with it. So just want to bring a little bit of that into it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because see, the beauty is that it all lays in your subconscious. It never goes out of it. It is just that when it might come back to your conscious mind, that's a different situation. That's
Absolutely.
entirely a different situation. So
And that's
that,
why it was happening then.
yeah,
It's not happening now. But we carry, sometimes we carry our traumas as if they're happening even now. And when people carry these traumas as if they're happening even now, for example, uh, somebody losing their job, somebody losing their child, it happened then. It's very traumatic. But we carry these significant events in our life as if it's going to happen every minute,
we
as
are
if,
reliving those brutalities every minute, actually.
yes. And when we are, our body is constantly in a state of stress, and it's going to ultimately create a form of disease with which you will bring it back to the body and release your mind from all this. And you have to go back to the jagran that you created at that time. So it's a very beautiful mechanism that your body and mind are so connected. Thank you so
Just
much.
imagine, Bhagavad Gita was teaching us all this way back 5,000, even before BC, 500 years before BC.
Absolutely.
So the level of knowledge of this book, the depth of knowledge is amazing. And so is the amazing capacity, like because you have learned all those modalities, Anu, it is so easy for you to interpret and translate it this way. Otherwise, for a common man, it would be very difficult to understand the dissociation concept.
Yeah,
It's not easy. I
it's a little
mean, how,
difficult.
I understood the dissociation concept because I had read about Ramakrishna Paramhans, his meditation, and Vivekananda and his meditation, so I could understand this. And because the gurus who had taught me Gita were gurus who had followed them, so it was easy to understand. But for a common man, for whom even meditation, sitting and just deep breathing is a very big thing, so dissociation is a very difficult thing to understand. So I think that's a very beautiful insight that you just gave. I think today we will end at this. Only thing is, here one thing I will add, because we are talking about association of material body and the spirit. I would like to mention that we always land up doubting things. How is it possible? Is it possible? Is it not possible? Dear people, please understand there are two very beautiful words. One is doubt, and the other is suspicion. Okay? Doubts can always be clarified, cleared, talked, understood, read about, learned about. But suspicions, they are like those marks which are created on stones. It is very difficult to remove a suspicion out of somebody's psyche. So when we are reading Bhagavad Gita, I really request everybody, come up, come up front with your doubts. It's a pleasure, clarifying them, because that will give you a much deeper insight to this knowledge. Do not listen to Bhagavad Gita with suspicion in your mind of any kind. It's a humble request to all of you. Please write your doubts to us. Please mention them and have an open mind, when you're listening to us. We are not being religious. We are just trying to tell you another beautiful way of becoming a free spirit. That is all. Thank
There is no religion to breathing. Every meditation says, don't forget to breathe. Similarly, this, just like other books which were written by different people and were named differently, actually have a similar understanding. So if I speak of Gita, I'm actually speaking of Quran, and I'm actually speaking of Bible. Because at the end of it, biggest gurus have said that, you know what, all three or so many other religious books, as we mention it, it just told you, it's like this: I stayed in India in this geographical, so I'm an Indian. You stayed somewhere else, so you're a European. So I picked up this book and read, so it's written in a certain language, it's written with certain experiences. And somebody else picks up another book, it's written in different language and in different experiences.
you. Yes.
Are taking in what you understand. If you have these walls up like a great wall of China around you, you wouldn't take in anything. Rather than that, let's break down the walls of suspicion and let's learn to trust. Because you can, from here, create a whole world around you. There is nothing suspicious about things being invisible and not being seen, to then creating something which can be seen and which has to be preserved. It's just that, and I understand exactly what Archana is saying. And I've been somebody who didn't ever go near these books. That's why I told Archana, you know what? If it was left to this lifetime, I'm not going to open Gita. I'm not going to open Quran, and I'm not going to open Bible. And for me, I probably, if I've taken the first step in my life, because I requested her, could you please? And she said, yes, why not? Now, what does that do for me? It brings up an understanding of the elements of things, how they were spoken, and what was understood in that culture. That's all it is. We all cook potatoes all across the world. One vegetable that's across.
Potato, potato. Oh my God.
The potato, bambori in Czech
Oh
Republic,
yes.
batata in Bombay. Now, these are different names for the same thing. If we start rejecting the food because it has different names and we call it the Hindu potato and the Muslim potato, it might be quite
And we
ridiculous.
all love French fries. Come on, yeah.
Ultimately, French fries
Exactly.
of
Exactly.
giving you potato French fries basically, and I don't even know why they were called French. Maybe French began with it. The fried potato fries, you please have them and enjoy rather than getting into this nitty gritties. And pick up what is best suited for you and leave out what you cannot digest right now, because I believe things don't come to you before you're ready. So
Never.
if you're having those doubts, clear them so that you can be ready to absorb and digest something, and that's absolutely okay. But don't give up, because when you give up on something really precious in your life. So thank you, beautiful people. Namaste again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Archana. In gratitude to all of you and Archana for
Thank
bringing this. Bye
thank
bye.
you.